Hello and welcome to I Am the End of the Words. I'm not going to put the beginning song on this one. I guess you would have known that by now. As much as I love it, I now realize that everybody else may not love it. I may come up with something new to do, though. But I also realized it was very loud compared to what my videos were, so it might have been jarring. What I was going to review for this was Robert Harris's 1998 offering, Archangel. But it's basically the same book as Devil at the Crossroads, which I think may have been my first I Am the End of the Words. But instead of Hitler's illegitimate child, we have Stalin's illegitimate child living in a desolation outside of this city called Archangel, in the woods years after Stalin's death. A reporter and a journalist discover it. They go to seek him out. It's Stalin through and through. He knows nothing but the speeches of Stalin. He's learned how to talk like his father, and it's kind of a conspiracy set up. Well, it is now that they found him. So the Communist Party wants to come back in power, and we see a lot of the corruption in modern day Russia, circa 1998, and just how opposite some of our views are and what our societies are like. But well, I guess I did just review it. I am not going to review that. Cue the glass shattering. Get a couple Steve Weisers out, because I today will be reviewing the Stone Cold Truth, Stone Cold Steve Austin's book, with good old JR Jim Ross, as told to Dennis Brent. This book came out in 2003. So this was actually right after a lot of his major run. I had to throw the Stone Cold shirt on for this because there's no better way to do it. I wish I could just dump my water all over my chest, because that's what Stone Cold would do. I don't know. We'll see. The first thing about wrestling books is I've read a lot of them. I'm a huge wrestling fan. The best ones, because given a lot of the wrestlers aren't the best writers, even though this is Stone Cold talking. I knew a lot of these stories going into this from listening to Stone Cold's podcasts, either one of them, Unleashed or just the Stone Cold podcast, because he touches on a lot of these stories in his podcast. But before I get into that, wrestling books, because wrestlers usually aren't the best writers, the best ones have gimmicks. Like the Hardy Boys book was Jeff and Matt kind of talking back and forth about the same situation. That was a good gimmick. It made that one interesting, made that one different. The gimmick in this one is that Stone Cold tells a story, and then you have JR giving his twist on at the end, or his mom giving her twist on at the end if she was a part of the story, or even his dad a couple times. And it's a great gimmick because you see two different sides of the story. This covers Stone Cold from beginning, wanting to get into wrestling. Even before that, it covers his childhood. He was a badass. What did you expect? It covers him coming up through Dallas, wrestling in Dallas at the Sportatorium. It covers him getting into WCW. It covers him going to ECW. I don't really want to talk. I mean, I know. I don't know if everybody else does, though. Stone Cold in WCW got fired by Eric Bischoff when he was injured through telephone. It really pissed him off. He went to ECW, where Paul Heyman told him to just do promos and told him to just use that anger that Eric Bischoff gave him for the promos, and that made him really work out his Stone Cold character to really become Steve Austin. The promo work is what eventually got him a contract with WWF, now WWE. He was just seen as a mechanic before then. A mechanic is somebody who will never go higher than the Intercontinental title. The mechanic is just there to put on a good match with somebody else, and they're never going to be a top guy. When Austin got the promo, he got that personality, the promo work in, they started seeing higher and higher things for him. Eventually, I think we all know what happened. Stone Cold became the highest grossing, if you will. Stone Cold pulled in more fans to wrestling than I'm going to say anybody in the history of wrestling. I think he made more money than anybody in the history of wrestling. John Cena may be catching up. He sells a lot of merch to kids. But during the golden years of wrestling, the Attitude Era, although if you have the WWE Network and you watch some of the Attitude Era, we definitely remember it a lot differently than it happened. Some things watching now are phenomenal. They're just as good as when you watched them before. Other things are awful. And I don't mean just awful. I mean cringing, wanting to fast forward. Why did they do it? Why did we put up with it? What is happening? There are things that happen in the Attitude Era that are far worse than what happens weekly on WWE programming today. I still watch wrestling. I'm still super into wrestling. I watch it differently than I used to. I definitely watch it differently than when it was the Attitude Era, because although I knew it wasn't real, it was still, we didn't have the internet. Everybody didn't have access to the dirt sheets, and it was kind of better. I mean, because you didn't know if somebody was gonna make a surprise appearance. There's some interesting chapters in here, and he says some interesting things of people who, well, there's a whole chapter about Chris Benoit in here, because this would have been prior to Chris Benoit doing the whole murder-suicide deal with his wife, his son, and himself. And he talks about how Chris Benoit was one of the best in the business. He's one of the best wrestlers in the business. He just doesn't have the personality. Talks about how he loved working with Chris Benoit. Loved it more than a lot of people. His favorite matches were with Bret Hart. He talks about going heel at WrestleMania and still regrets it. To this day, he still does if you listen to his podcast. So it is an old book. 2003 is quite a while ago. I don't know if he put out another book yet. I'm sure he had to have, right? Although I've heard these same stories on the podcast, so maybe Austin's just loving the stories he has. He talks about the what gimmick when he came back and had to do the what gimmick as a heel. He loved working with Kurt Angle. Had so much respect for Kurt Angle. Not a lot of new stuff in here that I experienced. Like I said, I knew a lot of it from listening to his podcast. I knew a lot of stories. It was still a good read, quick read. If you're into wrestling, I recommend this. I will give Archangel a 6 out of 10, just because it wasn't a bad read. I just felt like I read it 6-7 books ago. It delved more into it, though. The Devil at the Crossroads was kind of just, well, we got to take care of it. This, they actually dove into, introduced the character, saw how wild the character was. The character actually took out a few Spetsnaz by himself, like not a platoon, not a battalion, a small squad, if you will. But the true champion here is Stone Cold. He deserves this video, not Archangel. Like I said, the gimmick of this is that his JR talks at the end of every chapter. There's a little paragraph of what he said. Loved it. If you like wrestling, you probably have liked Stone Cold. Give it a shot. If not, if you don't like to read, listen to his podcasts, because there's a lot of the same stories. He touches on a lot of the same things. I really wish I could just dump my water on my chest and walk around to all four corners of the room and grab 4 drinks and dump 3 of them on my chest, get maybe one in my mouth. I won't salute. I will do the Stone Cold salute, but you can't really see my hands. I want to put my arms up in the air, but you won't see my hands. But I will do one. The middle finger is up on this one, just so you know. I'll bring it down just so you can see. Thank you. Give me a hell yeah. And that's the end of the video, because Stone Cold said so.